Welcome back to the ZeroW Podcast, where we talk about lifting, coaching, and more. You can learn more about ZeroW by going to www.zero.com.au. That's Zero with a W. We are also proudly sponsored by Establishment Coffee. Head to establishmentcoffee.com.au. Use the code 025 for 25% off and free shipping. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's what all the cool kids say. And if you're on Spotify, hit that 5-star review. We love it. Enjoy the show now.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today we are joined by the affectionately named milkman, Theo Maddox. I don't know much about your story, so I'm looking forward to hearing about how you got into lifting. What I know now is that your Instagram reels have a little bit of a grungy filter effect, and that's kind of what I think of when I think of you.
It's colour blindness.
It's the colour blindness.
It's generally like something that looks great to me looks horrible to other people.
No, it looks good. Yeah.
I've had comments on it all like before, and I'll run it through people who have actual like cones in their eyes before I post things now.
Yes, fair.
Look at this. If you can,
James has some cones in his eyes.
I was about to say a couple of content creators are talking shop right there.
Yeah, we'll just shut up over here. We don't know what we're doing.
Camera angles.
Anyways, let's get started. Let's start with a quote.
Actually, your reel the other day of Theo was the best. Where you're like when you're looking for all the 20 kilo plates in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, I'm a content creator.
I like that. That was good. Yeah, well,
who's going first?
We do gratefuls first.
Oh, grateful.
Theo, what are you grateful for?
Why do you have to start with me? I was living. I want to actually say that I was grateful. I'm grateful for Cooper and Kenna, in all honesty, bro.
Nice.
Like having lived with them, and they've like taken me under their wing. And like I was telling Kenny before that, like living with Cooper as well, there's a lot of things that he just does in his day-to-day life that potentially people aren't aware of. And there's a lot of ways in which like I look up to him as a person. And I've never told him that. I've never really kind of like had like a bros on bros conversation with him. But just talking to Henry before kind of made me realize that I'm like super appreciative of him, like supporting me through that time, and Kenna. But for him, more for me, like having like a male role model figure like that. Like there's always things that you can kind of look up to in people, I think, and you can take little bits from people and kind of,
Yeah, nice. I love that. It's like one of those things, I'll be talking to Meg and be like, "Oh, this person's such a great person." Like, why don't you tell them that? Nah, never say it to them face.
Nah, we'll say it on a random podcast.
No,
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah.
Not to that guy.
I'd rather roast them to their face. I'd rather put them down.
No, that's great, man. Cooper's a good egg.
I think he'll be a good PT.
Yeah.
He'll be awesome.
Meg, what are you grateful for?
My mum, because the other day we came home and there was like a new fur jacket for Buddy, a toy each for Jerry and Buddy, probably like 4 different types of food in the fridge and all that stuff. So, she really looks after the dogs well and us. She's just a woman of her word. She gets a lot of shit done.
She is. She's all about action.
Yes.
You say something needs doing, all of a sudden it's done.
It's pretty crazy.
She talks to us like we've never had a dog. Like she'll come over and then she'll leave and then she'll text Meg and be like, "You have to feed them dinner. They need to eat this for dinner, and then after dinner, they need to go outside. They'll need to go to the toilet before bed." It's like, we look over after these dogs daily.
Fuck, thanks. I almost forgot.
That's great. She loves them more than us. James, what are you grateful for, brother?
Just off the back of Theo's, I'm very grateful for my housemates. I live with 2 of my best friends. And yeah, same thing, just fucking the most amazing role models. The way I always talk about Johnny is, how you see all those cringy reels of people like what I do when I wake up. I have an ice bath. I stretch for 45 minutes. John has literally lived his life like that for like as long as I remember. Like, and he doesn't really use social media.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's like a trend to do all that shit now, but he's done it forever because it actually makes him feel good.
Yeah. A big difference between living it and living it to post it.
Yeah.
And then changing temporarily.
Yeah, like he stretches. It's like the running joke. Like whenever Bridget comes around, he's always stretching. And he's stretching 24/7. Like not 24/7, but he does everything that he thinks makes him feel good.
Yeah.
Without question.
Nice.
It's very admirable.
Nice.
Have you told him this, James?
Yeah, that's my brother. That's my best friend.
I'm grateful for hokers. Well, I mean, we're doing the National Autism Awareness podcast. We may as well talk about the national.
Is that going to be the official name of this?
The National Autism Awareness shoes, the shoes of autism. Meg got me a pair of Hoka's, and best shoes I've ever walked in,
Man,
by far.
that's fucking so good. Meg, where'd you get the idea of Hoka's?
You.
I know that. I was. Thank you. You can have some praise.
Nah, because I remember a couple years ago, people would roast me for wearing them.
It's because they're autistic. I'm not proud of wearing them. I'm just saying they're comfortable.
How comfy are they though? Eh?
Yeah, they're the best.
It's like walking
Literally
on
the best.
clouds.
Do you know what? You know how I'm not trying to sound like a fucking trendsetter, but I kind of am. So you know how I wear Salomons?
Yeah.
And people roast me for them because they look like a hiking shoe.
Yeah.
Have you noticed they're kind of trending now?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Hoka's are the next thing to trend, as in like a fashion shoe.
You never miss the mark on that stuff. Anytime you say it, it comes true.
Yeah, but I'm too old to be doing this shit.
It's when I stopped wearing, I used to be able to wear all of my shoes because like people know I've got a shoe collection. And when I stopped wearing shoes to the gym and I was like just in socks permanently, my feet have just progressively gotten really wide. And now none of my shoes fit. And when I try to buy extra wide shoes from the store, they're always too narrow. Whereas Hoka's are the only shoes that I can buy and walk for like 2 hours straight and be fine.
Yeah, wow. Do you reckon? I don't even know if you need to go the extra wide in Hoka's.
Mine are like...
Thomas has got like the ultra wide.
They're like
really?
as wide as the fucking desk. They look like clown shoes.
Oh, man. Yeah,
They're
shout
great.
out Hoka's.
Yeah.
I told you about when they came into Under Armour, eh? So I used to work at Under Armour back in the day.
Yeah.
And like 5 dudes in Hoka polos came in and wearing the ugliest shoes like known to man. And they walked into the shop. This is what, I don't know when I worked at Under Armour, 2017 or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, I was like, hey guys, how are you? And like, just checking out the competition. I was like, the competition? Like,
Good luck.
Yeah, and they were like, we're the best running shoes. And
Wow.
I was like looking at their feet. I'm like, these guys are fucking delusional.
And look at them now.
Yeah, but I couldn't believe it. I was like going and telling, wait, these guys think they're the shit. Because they made the ugliest shoes. Like, they're still kind of ugly, but like, I don't know, we've kind of just like...
Well, I guess it just
grown
goes to
to-
show they're so comfortable that you
Yeah.
just can't deny how good they are, even
But-
if they're not that pretty.
Every runner has a pair of Hoka's in their rotation, like for the easy Ks, and
Yeah.
yeah, great shoe.
That's why I got them.
For the
By
easy
running.
kids.
All right, quotes. What do we
Wait.
got?
I'll start because I think mine's not that great. Layla Hormozi, the confidence you desire lies in the fears you avoid.
Say that again. Confidence.
The confidence you desire lies in the fears you avoid.
Like bees?
Like, yeah, facing your fears thus turns to confidence.
I'm happy to stay scared of bees. That's fine.
Doing the thing you said you couldn't do.
No. I like it. It's a good quote. Basically, anything a Hormozi says, I'm on board with.
A Hormozi.
Yeah.
He's the school guy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The school
Yeah, I
guy.
see him all over like Instagram ads.
The who guy?
School. He's got a
He's endorsing school.
masterclass. I don't
Yeah.
even know what it is. I just see school with like kitty letters.
Education.
School's just an online platform, subscription-based platform. So it's a community building thing that essentially you're just selling products through.
Okay.
In the top 10 was that Eddie Abdu guy. You know who that is?
Really?
Yeah.
Who?
Oh wow.
He's an ex-bodybuilder. He's a British dude. And he's very like...
Stop eating this shit. That guy.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
And all he
Is it
eats is eggs and fucking
Like potato and...
yeah, beef. For breakfast, I have 8 eggs. What you're putting into your body is shit. You got to stop eating this fucking shit.
He's always in arguments with like Lane Norton and that kind of... Yeah.
Oh, this is really ringing a bell.
Yeah. You'd know him if you saw him.
Okay.
All right. My quote is, our life is what our thoughts make it.
Our life is what else.
Which is basically saying that nothing has any meaning. We ascribe meaning to things. So when you think you're in the worst situation or the best situation, you've decided that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Well, actually, we get to feel our feelings.
All right.
Yeah, what you got?
Um,
The Milky Man kid is strong and tough.
yeah, no, my quote was just like a rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing.
Nice.
like I get a lot of people in my like comment sections and stuff trying to pull other people down, and I tend to take like 5-10 minutes out of my day to respond to them, because I think people forget in like powerlifting that it's a community first and foremost.
Pull people down how?
Oh, just like with like comments about sumo, or people being like untested, or like literally everything under the sun. You'll get someone commenting on like, oh, you're fat, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think people forget first and foremost that it's a community, and it was designed to be like uplifting yourself and bettering yourself, but also other people around you. And nothing bad will come from uplifting others.
That's cool. Do you know what? Just on that, I'll give you a compliment there. What I like about you is anyone I introduce you to in the gym, you take time to talk to them. That's really cool, because people admire you in this space and sport.
Yeah,
For sure.
something that I don't take for granted whatsoever, bro. Like I get a lot of people messaging me asking for advice, and just people saying that like I inspire them, or that they look up to me. Like that's not something that I'm used to whatsoever. Like this has all come on very, very quickly for me, and it's all of a sudden I've become almost that idol that I looked up to when I was starting powerlifting only like 4 years ago, give or take. So yeah, it's something that's quite special to me.
That's cool. All right, I got a quote. To win any battle, you must fight as if you're already dead. 2 weeks in a row with the death quotes, fighting to the death
Nice.
type vibe.
Nice. I'm going to use that when I bench this afternoon.
Yes. You want me to do your press calls?
I'm gonna bench as if my pecs have already torn. Which probably is going to happen on the third set. All right. Anyway, today, Theo, this is all about you. So, who are you? Where'd you come from? That's what everyone says. Where did this guy come from? It's like, I don't know. I was born.
Yeah, where'd you come from?
So
Starship Hospital in Auckland, I think.
Yeah. Give us some insight about how you started training in the first place. Like, what first brought you into the gym?
Oh, I should have thought about this prior to coming in here, to be honest.
Actually, let it simmer. And for anyone who doesn't know Theo, Theo's a powerlifter. Can you tell everyone your best numbers first, and then answer that question?
Okay. So I have a 1,012 kilogram raw total at a tad over 140 kilograms body weight, and I did that at 20 years old. I also have a 477.5 kilogram raw deadlift with straps at 21, and I think currently I am. Yeah, it sounds so weird, like reciting my credentials like this, but currently I believe I am the strongest 19, 20, and 21-year-old to have lived. So, yeah, those are the titles that I'm most proud about.
Nice. And the 10-12 total, what's that made up of?
A 375 kilogram squat and sleeves, a 227.5 kilogram bench, and a 410 kilogram deadlift.
Awesome. Amazing. All right, so how did you get into the gym in the first place?
CJ, can you turn the aircon on, please, bro? Sorry, brother.
Feeling the heat. And can you tilt the microphone back towards you a little bit?
Shit, sorry.
There you go.
I just wanted to be proud of something, to be honest, and I think my mum was also getting into fitness at that time, and she kind of made a pact with me, and she's like, oh, if you go to the gym 3 days a week, I will pay for your gym membership. And then within me training for a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, this is free money. Like, you're going to have to get me out of here. But I just wanted to be proud of something, I guess. I always knew that like having ADHD and stuff like that, dopamine kind of runs my world. So I always knew that something that I would really enjoy, that I'd be able to put a bunch of time into, I would always be able to be pretty good at it. And growing up, I was very good at sports. Like I would win all the events at like athletics days and stuff without really training or trying. And so I started weight training, and within a year, I think as a 16-year-old, I went from 78 kilograms up to 108 kilograms, and freaked everybody out. And all of my mates were like, "Oh, what are you taking?" and stuff like that, and they were convinced that something had happened to me. And then I did something similar the next year, where I started powerlifting, and within I think 3 months I deadlifted 240, and then within 10 months I deadlifted 300, and like my progression rate is something that I think that's my biggest achievement, in all honesty, man. Like just how fast I grew, just how fast I trained. And for me, I was just information hungry like crazy.
What did you see to make the switch to powerlifting?
Well, everyone saw that I had potential in bodybuilding, and they were pushing me to compete with that. And I didn't mind it. I didn't think the competition side of things was very exciting. And then I think one of my mates at the time was like, "Oh, you could try powerlifting, like try deadlifting. And at the time I was following like a guy called Sawyer Klatt, and he did powerlifting, and he deadlifted like 300 kilograms at 6'17", I think. And that was like this standard. That was the top standard then. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could do that. And so I just chased after him, and then I realized that I got really good at it really fast, and then it was just a snowball. Mm-hmm. You know, the same with anything. You get good at it, and then you like it, and it's like almost like the swimmer's paradox kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the swimmer's paradox?
Oh,
Those who don't know.
Oh, well, people who look at swimmers and assume that they're kind of built the way that they are because of the sport, but it's more so like everything kind of almost self-selects. So
Sure.
oftentimes with like powerlifting, some of the top powerlifters, they were good at it from a young age, and that kind of momentum allows them to put more effort into the sport and get better at it, because it's very difficult to be almost sacrificing such a large part of your life and financials for something that you're not good at, and you're inherently going to pull back from it if you're not getting kind of that kind of feedback for a lot of people at the elite level.
Some kind of progress, yeah.
Yeah, like if you're a swimmer and you've got really broad shoulders and like really long arms, you're probably going to win competitions, and then winning competitions is going to make you feel good, and you're going to get to the top level because you're going to put more time into it, because it's something that you might, associate with your personality. It might become a part of you.
Do you get comments about how you might be, say, genetically advantaged or something to discredit you? Or?
All the time. Yeah, like I pull sumo, so it's not a real deadlift. And then there's just like genetics, and there's definitely an argument on genetics, especially when it comes to things like myostatin deficiencies and like the Hercules gene and fast twitch muscle fiber biases and stuff like that. But I think people get too in their heads about it. People use it a lot for like self-victimization, like, oh, it's just not my genetics, that kind of thing. For me, I know that with training, I treated it like a full-time job from day one. And that was, I just hyperfixated on it like crazy. Like work didn't matter. School didn't matter. School didn't matter whatsoever. It was just, I wake up, I eat food, and during school time, I try to stay awake, and I think about training later that day.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. And with powerlifting, because there's no money in it, that really makes sense, because it's very hard to make those sacrifices when there's no financial justification. The same way that you might be able to for like NFL, for example. Like you can sacrifice your entire life for that, knowing that there is multi-million-dollar contracts at the other end.
Sure.
But for powerlifting, it's like CPAP and health problems.
The genetics thing is interesting because it's something you can't measure and you can't change. People get so hung up on it. It's a bit silly. The interesting thing about what you're saying about, self-selecting the swimmer's paradox in powerlifting is that a lot of people think that certain builds lend themselves to certain lifts and therefore that becomes an advantage. It's actually kind of a disadvantage in powerlifting. The best powerlifters, people who are good at squat, bench press, and deadlift, are generally averagely built, as in like well-rounded. They don't have phenomenal arm length that affords them this massive deadlift. Then they're just a shitty powerlifter with a big deadlift. Like it's one of the things I love about powerlifting is that the advantage is always strength. Anyway, keep going. You picked it up. So you were obviously in high school. This is in Tauranga, right?
Yeah, this is in Tauranga.
Yeah,
it's
sweet.
Tauranga Boys High School, or Tauranga Boys College. Yeah.
And then how did you actually take then the steps? You said, people were saying go towards bodybuilding. You were watching this dude and you're like, okay, I want to go towards powerlifting. What were the next steps for you in terms of getting into a powerlifting competition, and what did that first powerlifting competition look like for you?
So I joined a powerlifting gym. I joined Ruthless Barbell, which was pretty much the only powerlifting gym in all of Tauranga. And
Shout out, Mike.
Shout out to Mike, yeah. And then I think at the time there was an athlete in there called Brett Gibbs. And I don't know if you know who Brett Gibbs is, but
Never heard of him.
Is that sarcasm?
Yeah, he's trained here before.
So I can't pick up on social cues.
He's like royalty in like powerlifting.
New Zealand he is, for sure, yeah. And he was there, and he started coaching me for a bit, just as he had moved down to Wellington, which I was pretty bummed about. And then I joined the IPF, and I started realizing very, very, very quickly that I had a chance at breaking records. And within a couple months, I had surpassed, I think, most of the national records, and then I had set my eyes on like world records, and I was like, oh my shit, I could probably go for some of these IPF world records in less than 10 months of training. I I say training because I started squatting and deadlifting for the first time at the beginning of 2020. Like prior to that, I had a year of like bodybuilding training where I had done a little bit of bench press for like a bench press competition for school, and then just done like a bunch of leg press. I was very avoidant and hesitant to do anything that would hurt my back because I had that kind of novice paranoia.
Sure.
But yeah, I joined the IPF. I had a novice comp where I did RPE7 kind of like thirds, and everyone kind of laughed at me because it didn't look like I was trying. And then I did nationals for my first time in 2020. That was my first ever powerlifting comp, and I didn't sleep a wink the night before, and I got real paranoid about it and how that would affect my my strength on the day. So.
And what did you hit at nationals?
Ooh.
Was this in Auckland?
This was in Christchurch. So this was at the Riccarton Racecourse, which I was, so my grandparents came along because I'm from Christchurch, or I used to live down there when I was younger before the earthquakes. And I put up a 247 kilogram squat, I think. I failed my third. I put up a 147.5 kilogram bench, and then I put up a 290 kilogram deadlift.
Is this in the 105s or 120s?
This is in the 120s, yeah. I was immediately a 120. Like, I was too big for the 105 within a year of training. Like, I went to 108 kilograms immediately, and then went up to 120 kilograms. And then after that, I had a back injury, switched to conventional, and then COVID kind of hit, and I wasn't able to train for a pretty long period of time. I got out of COVID, and I was in lockdown back in Auckland. My hall was actually ground zero for the second outbreak. My hall's a residence at university. Yeah, so we were cooped in like fish.
Yeah, wow.
And then I came back to Tauranga, started sumo again, and then within, I think, 3 months, I pulled 330 and was like, oh, sumo's a really good lift for me. We can probably bring this back. And my body weight skyrocketed up because I was untrained, and I went up to like 130, 136 kilograms almost.
Were you still vegan at the time?
Oh, yeah, I was vegetarian.
Sorry.
I was vegetarian without eggs. The only like animal product that I ate, aside from like gelatin and stuff and sweets and stuff, was milk. I had no eggs or anything like that either. And I did that for an entire year between 2021 and 2022.
What was the reasoning?
Clarence Kennedy, bro.
Bro, that's wow. I did the same thing.
We were talking about Clarence Kennedy the other day.
I love him. I had a look at his stuff, and it wasn't like I wasn't looking up to him like, oh, it's the Messiah, and like everyone's got to go plant based. It was more of a, I wonder if I could do this. This means I have to do less cooking. I'm in halls. I have to feed myself for the first time properly without and pay for my groceries. I'm going to try vegetarian and see if it affects my training. And it didn't affect my training. I didn't notice any kind of like weaknesses or strengths. But then as soon as I switched back to like a high salt, high red meat diet, my numbers skyrocketed. But there's so many different variables in there that I'm not sure I can really fairly say that. Yeah.
What about like muscle growth?
I do think I have walked the walk. Like I was vegetarian for I think 15 months total. I think that it is so much easier for someone my size to get bigger and get stronger through a meat-based diet, just because of just like nutrient efficient, like getting nutrients in. It's so much more inefficient getting it through plants.
Well, what I was going to say, what's the sheer volume? How many calories were you on?
I was on like 5,000 or 6,000.
I just think about your stomach.
I had horrible meals. I would just have a bowl of chickpeas that I would lightly salt, and I would just eat it. And this is like a dog bowl looking kind of like, like a silver mixing bowl. My family would call it my dog bowl. And I would just eat chickpeas out of that with rice. And that would be like a normal meal for me. And in high school, I made these horrible meals. I got roped down the nutrient bandwagon, and I ended up making this kind of like half and half mixture of black rice, jasmine rice, uncooked kidney beans, and uncooked chickpeas.
Yum.
Because of nutrients. So the rice was black, and it looked like it was poisonous. And that was super difficult for me to digest, obviously. It has more nutrients, but at the expense of like digestibility and like bioavailability.
You've had a phase like that, Thomas.
Yeah, I've done plant phases.
Yeah, I think we've all done that, eh?
Yeah.
Clarence Kennedy was one of mine too. He's the reason why I started drinking chocolate soy milk back in the day.
Oh,
Don't tell me that.
I tell you what, I could live on beans in New Zealand off of KFC bean salad. That shit's next level. It's so unique to New Zealand as well.
Is that the only KFC that has it?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right.
Pretty sure that's the only place you can get it. I don't know if it's still a thing.
You guys don't have coleslaw?
Do they have coleslaw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just also have this like bean salad, which is
Interesting.
really good. Yeah. Okay. Well, continuing on that train of thought, then, like as in Clarence Kennedy, I always forget the guy's name, Sawyer. Who you said you were really hungry for information at the start. Where were you getting that information, and what kind of people were you looking up to? Like, who were your early influences as a powerlifter? Who were you chasing?
Well, for starters, all of that information, it wasn't explicitly with powerlifting. It was everything to do with like training and nutrition. Like I completely hyperfixated on it. I would scour forums and books and just YouTube videos. And like, is my mic?
Yeah, the cord plays up sometimes.
Oh, that's all right. I would scour I would be up at I wouldn't be unable to sleep. So I'd be up at 4 a.m. just scrolling through Reddit, like just figuring things out. In terms of like people I looked up to, I looked up to Sawyer a lot. A lot of these young dudes who are around my age or like 2 years older, I looked up to, and it's very surreal for me to have almost surpassed their numbers. Obviously, I've become untested, and a lot of them are still tested, Sawyer in particular, and I admire him for that. But I didn't really look up to anybody other than that, in all honesty, man. I just looked at these kind of like the top of the top of open powerlifting, the guys who were setting the standard, and just kind of decided to chase them. And I think an important thing that I do want to mention here is that I never questioned my ability to do that. I always, for years, I was dead set on the mindset that it's just a matter of time. Like, I'd started a little bit later than these guys, I knew that, but I knew that, like, I would be able to work, and all of my numbers, if I extrapolated them, pointed in the direction that I would be stronger than them within a couple years. And so, as I got stronger and stronger and I increased in my weight classes, I started to look at men instead of like juniors and stuff like that. I look up to Jesus a lot. Like as an athlete, Jesus does not make sense to me whatsoever. That being that strong at 23 in a drug tested federation on a stiff bar, he's a complete freak of nature, and I do think that at this level, a lot of people do underestimate the kind of mindset that it takes to almost be that obsessed. Because I don't want to say that there has to be something wrong with you, but there has to be something that's driving you to have that obsession, to put all of this kind of time and effort into a sport that really doesn't give you that much back other than self-fulfillment. So, yeah.
Just circling back to the genetics thing, there's definitely a genetic component to that family. What's their last names? Jesus
Oliveira.
Yeah, because have you seen his brother as well?
His brother's a little bit on the fatter side, but he's built like a fridge and makes Jesus look almost athletically small.
Yeah,
it's so strange. Like you see Jesus squatting like some unfathomable amount of weight, and then you just see this block behind him, and it's his younger brother. And I think they're so blessed to be able to have like each other, because they push each other. So like Pablo's coming up super, super fast, and he's got the best role model in the world for it, his brother. And they're just going to like a rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. Like having a training partner like that who is also your brother, I think is going to push them so far.
They have you ever spoken to Jesus?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I looked up to him a lot. I was with Joey Flex for a little bit before Thomas poached me.
Hold the phone. let's rewind on that.
My mic's playing.
Just wriggle that thing on the bottom, like this part. Just make sure it's pushed all the way in.
I say poached, but I think Thomas's first message to me was like, don't want to step on his toes, and explicitly trying to clarify that he wasn't poaching or anything. But I was with Joey at the time, and obviously Jesus is one of Joey's top athletes. He's got a lot of the top dudes in the IPF under his wing, and he's a great dude. He was a great coach. I have messaged Jesus a couple times. I got asked on one of my Instagram AMAs, like ask me anything, who I looked up to the most, and it was Jesus for a long period of time. And then I had to unfortunately leave the Flex community, and at some point Jesus unfollowed me on social media, despite knowing that he was my idol, and I had talked to him about it, and I was like, he'd been in my comment sections, and I'd just been like, hey man, like I appreciate you being in my comment section so much, like this means the world to me to be able to talk to you. And he unfollowed me, and I was a bit I was pretty devastated, to be honest. And since then, he's kind of like followed me and then unfollowed me. I think 4 times actually.
That's so bizarre.
It is, and it is a little bit common in powerlifting. You get top dudes following you, and then you don't follow them back, and then they unfollow you, and like people get weird about it. For me,
Instagram, am I right?
yeah, for me, it's like I have object impermanence, so like I forget that people exist, including my own family members. If that makes sense. Like I'm terrible with like keeping up with contact with a lot of people. If they're not immediately in front of me, like I struggle to remember that they exist in a lot of ways.
Do you have that, Thomas?
Yeah, it's called autism and ADHD.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. I do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I followed him. I think I still follow him. Like I look up to him a lot. I was just very upset, and it was a bit of like a don't meet your idols kind of thing, because I don't know why you would unfollow someone like that. Even if it was like a political, you're no longer with the Joey Flex crew. Like you're out of the little clique. But yeah.
I try not to put too much thought into it, man. So it's social media. It doesn't mean anything.
Oh yeah.
If it makes you feel better, I don't follow anyone back. So.
Yeah, I always find it weird when people follow my coaching page and then follow my personal page, and then it's like I don't really want to see any more powerlifting than I already do on my personal page, unless it's like the top guys that that I think are freaks or whatever. But they'll message you like, "Hey, just letting you know, I followed your personal page." It's like, yeah, cool.
I only followed your coaching page because I thought I had to. Ruining my ratio, brother. Following to followers.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, interesting. If you don't mind talking about it, and we can cut this part out if you don't want to talk about it, what sort of influenced the decision going from tested to untested?
Oh, no, I'm very open with this, man.
I know you are. You've spoken
I
about
don't think
it
I want.
publicly.
I don't think I really want anybody to cut this out, to be honest, unless I like start speaking Spanish or something and I start stuttering.
If you speak Spanish, we'll go to a wider audience. It'd be great.
Yeah,
Hola.
we've got subtitles.
Yeah, I need to add subtitles. Yeah. For me, I was intending on going into genetics in university, and I was intending on potentially studying going into academia or potentially pharmacology. So the idea of like, I've been a big supplement fanatic for a long time. I've worked in supplement stores, and that was a part of my hyperfixation along with nutrition. Is just kind of, supplements are designed to supplement your diet, and sometimes some things are impossible to get at these levels without supplementation. Like creatine, for example, is super useful to have as a supplement instead of getting it from fish, eggs, and meat. So for untested, it was like that kind of, I don't want to say like biohacking, but just it's fascinating, man, for me, in all honesty. Like the idea that you can take, not necessarily stuff that's banned by like WADA or anything, but the fact that you can improve your life through, it's a similar thing to like food, for example. Like you can improve your life through taking these things. You can improve your cognition, how you feel, just your quality of life. So it was equally as much about improving my quality of life and kind of experimenting with that as it was for performance. I think that people nowadays have a very dangerous view on being untested. I think people go down the performance enhancing drugs route and take it into account as just being anabolics. But there's so much more to it than just steroids. Like there's nootropics and stuff that aren't banned, like carnitine. There's a lot of health supplements that are considered performance-enhancing drugs. Like everything is a performance-enhancing drug if you think about it. Paracetamol is performance-enhancing in some way, shape, or form. It's a degree of...
For sure. Yeah.
I'm going crazy. I'm going on too many different levels.
No,
but,
keep going.
No,
That's
exactly.
I can talk about this for hours. I've done papers on this, bro. It's fun. But for me, I was just super interested in it. And there's increasingly less stigma around it. And I think now that's becoming a little bit of a problem because we're moving away from demonization to glorification.
Yes.
And that is a real problem. And obviously, as a young dude, I'm 21, my brain's not developed. It's very obvious my brain isn't developed. I'm impressionable. I was impressionable back when I was 19, 18, 17. And I think looking up to these role models who are pushing, I say pushing, but they are pushing gear and glorifying gear and idolizing gear. I think that's a real problem because at the end of the day, for me, I always push the fact that it is a tool. It is neither good nor bad, and it's a double-edged sword that just so happens to have a pretty kind of strong kind of backbite almost. Like you need to be mature enough to understand that things can go wrong and what you're actually doing, and it requires a lot of maturity, I think, Because too often I see people saying, oh, I'm just going to take this at this dosage and it's just going to be that. And I'll always talk to them and I'll be like, if we're being real, man, unless you have a horrible first experience, it won't just be that compound. It won't just be that dosage. You'll push things. You'll get, it's a gateway drug to itself almost.
Yes.
Like, and for a lot of people as well, at the top levels, you can argue that some of us can justify pushing the envelope a little bit more when it comes to dosages. But I think there is definitely a level where abuse is just abuse, no matter how you look at it, no matter who you are, how good you are in your sport. Like, I don't care if you're the best of the best. Abuse does have a limit, and I think we are starting to see that with people like Larry Wheels, where they're pulling back, and talking about it can only do good things, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, historically, that's been one of the major issues, is that because it's been so taboo, and then it gets a horrible media perception, people are scared to talk about it from an educational perspective. So there's very little people doing education on it. There's very little people practicing in it in terms of being people who can coach someone on what to do. And so what we're left with is the majority of people who have historically coached it and practiced it have either been just complete bro scientists or super loopy for some reason. I don't know why it attracts such oddballs, but the more and more it becomes accepted as, okay, this is our reality, the more attention it can get from scientifically minded people, the more healthy use of these compounds can be. Because I love that point of anything can be a performance enhancing drug if you look at it. You know, that whole idea of paracetamol can be performance enhancing if it takes away the pain, and then you can perform in the way that you want to perform. That's a performance enhancing drug. For sure. This
is something that I can talk about for ages, man, because it's like WADA has to pull a line on what to ban and what not to ban. And they retroactively ban things. Like, I think tramadol is now banned. And so the line of what's natty and what's natty is completely and utterly arbitrary, because if you're a woman who was prescribed tramadol for whatever reasons back in 2005, if WADA's now banned that, so are you retroactively not natural anymore?
What's tramadol?
You got prescribed it after surgery.
Yeah.
I
I
did?
think it's a painkiller.
Very strong painkiller, yeah.
Did I take it?
No, you took the other one.
It makes me really sick. Tramadol.
Oh, thank God.
It makes people. It's. I think it's in the opioid family.
I'm not sure. There's a lot of them. Like Toradol is a massive one in the NFL, which is a superly strong anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, that's fucking people up in the NFL.
Yeah, but it's things like that degree, because like creatine is a performance enhancer, but you can't really ban it because it's in fish, eggs, and meat. Like caffeine is a massive boost to performance, but you can't ban it because everyone has coffee. And so for a lot of these compounds, it's like it has to be kind of niche or exotic enough that they can ban it, because not everybody is taking it.
Well, you know, WADA used to have upper limits on caffeine.
Yeah, they have upper limits on paracetamol and ibuprofen as well.
Why would they take it away if it used to be a thing?
I think too many people were exceeding it without realizing.
Right.
That's just sorry on this topic.
Because the old upper limit was quite low. I think it was like 500 milligrams.
That's
nothing,
like a normal day for some of the people that train
it's
at
5
night.
cups of coffee.
Theo's on like 1,500 right now.
As if you are.
I'm on Ritalin right now.
Most of the time he's on 1,500.
What's sorry, there's a UFC fighter who just got banned because some of the supplements had DHEA in it.
Yeah.
What is DHEA? Because from what I've read, it's not performance enhancing.
It's a hormone precursor to testosterone, I believe.
Yeah, right. So why, like, just from your guys' understanding, why would DHEA be banned?
Exactly that.
Just because of that?
Yeah, so your body can... you've got a giant... These are metabolic cascades in your body, but DHEA is turned into testosterone in your body, I believe, or converted into it. And so if you have more DHEA, then theoretically you would produce more testosterone or more estrogen. And so it skews your hormonal profile. But things are banned for various reasons. Like glycerol was banned for a period of time, not because it's like an anabolic agent, but because it allowed you to hyperhydrate and store so much fluid that you could dilute your blood results. That's no longer banned. But what I was saying before is that they have to put a spectrum on how performance enhancing it is. Like if something increases your performance by 5%, is that significant enough to justify a ban? And a lot of these anabolics are just like, they ban families. So they ban stimulant families, they ban anabolic families, that kind of thing, because we're getting designer drugs coming out from all over the place. And I think people are a lot less naive now in regards to top level athletes and like the Olympics and stuff, especially with weightlifting, with like how underwater with drug usage it is. We went through a real period of time I think after Vietnam, where steroids were taboo and demonized because of the MLB scandal. If you know about that.
Mm-hmm.
There are documentaries on this and stuff.
Yeah. MLB being Major League Baseball.
Yeah, there was what was his name? His name was Aaron or something.
Yeah.
A-Rod. Yeah, A-Rod. Yeah, he tested positive
A-Rod.
and everyone was like, oh my God. And then he got cracked down on. And I think the current president at the time was very, very anti-drugs. And, there was the whole kind of Vietnam hippie movement and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Coming back on a point, because I just want to hammer this point home for everyone listening, because we're not trying to glorify steroid use or anabolic use. There is a point to be made for the fact that there's a positive to more information and education getting out there about it, because use is kind of inevitable. We're not going to avoid that. But the glorification of it, especially with young people, is making it way too easy for kids who are otherwise healthy, happy, making great progress to just be like, yeah, I can do this thing and make even greater progress quicker. What would your advice be to young people who sort of being exposed to that and thinking about taking that step?
You have to understand that I think you're an unreliable, I don't want to say unreliable narrator, but you have to be aware that you don't know everything. And that you're going to be susceptible to being influenced by various marketing schemes and various influences, and you have to be mindful of what kind of information you're taking in, and kind of take everything, including your own thoughts and feelings, with a grain of salt, and understand that you might not care about having kids at 18, but you will probably care about it potentially more when you're 28 and can actually have kids and have a family and that kind of thing, and like your life direction kind of can change in an instant. I think that education has kind of been, everything is a double-edged sword, because education also implies that you're teaching people about it in the first place. So it's like you're teaching people about the actual realities of these kind of drugs and how to use them properly, and like, pulling them away from like bro science. But at the same time, you're also potentially telling people that they exist in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Like you don't want to be like proliferating that, oh, everyone takes drugs, and like making it such a normalized thing that everybody does it. But you do want to make sure that you can get the information out there for the people who will use it, so that they use it smartly. And so for me, with anybody that like messages me, I will give them advice. And that advice for young dudes will often come with my own opinion on if I think that they should do things, because it's an efficiency thing at the end of the day in my world. For a lot of people, it doesn't make sense. And for super young dudes, like I've had dudes as young as 14 message me and ask me for advice. And oftentimes one of the easiest ways to get through to them is say, hey, this is going to stunt your growth. Like your bone plates could not grow. Like your dick might not grow. They always care about that. It's not. It's like, oh, you might not have kids. They don't give a fuck. They just want to get strong as hell and impress all their mates. But if you comment on the fact that they might not grow properly, they start to listen to you. And it's not like you're pulling that out of anywhere anyway, because that is legitimately something that can happen if you fuck with your DHT levels and the estrogen levels and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, good. It's knowing how to speak to the audience.
yeah,
I like that. It's kind of concerning that 14-year-olds are wanting to take gear.
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, I'd go beyond kind of concerning. It's interesting though, that whole growth plate thing, because that's where the old wives' tale of don't go to the gym, you'll stunt your growth comes from. It's from Russians giving kids gear and actually stunting their growth.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens in China as well. Like, I say it happens in China, but we have, ex-physicians who have worked with the Olympic teams who have defected, and they have sought asylum in these Northern European countries, and then they've been asked questions, and they've just been like, hey, this is what happens in these kind of like these weightlifting camps. They get funneled through all of these schools, and they get selected for like female length and stuff like that, and then they get put on a drug program from a young age, and state-sponsored doping.
Yeah. But have you seen them squat? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's the same with wrestling. Like same thing. You see all these 56-kilo men that are jacked out of their brains, and they've been on gear since like 13, and
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Well, that's their job. It's a state sponsor. That is literally their job. Like for these like Georgian weightlifters, their job is they go to work, which is the gym, and they get paid for it. And the problem is that WADA is a corporation that can't really compete against these state-sponsored bodies because they just don't have the resources. Like you can't test athletes in the depths of China. And I don't want to just say China and Russia, because I do think that we have a tendency viewing things through the Western lens to be kind of like xenophobic towards them. Like the East, America is also the problem as well. Like America isn't the goody two shoes. Everybody does it. It's not just America. America invented like D-ball and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, we got way off topic with that. What do you sort of have on the cards now for your lifting? What's next for you? I know you're qualifying or putting up a total in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I'm going to total, I think I have to total 500 dots at this next comp to qualify for the Zero Pro. The Zero Pro is a competition that's also judged on dots, that has prize money in, is it late October?
Yes.
So I'll be doing that, and I'll probably be doing that sleeved or wrapped. And then the bigger comp that's afterwards, and I say bigger comp purely from like a prize money perspective, is Big Dogs, which is a month afterwards almost, 3 weeks to 4 weeks afterwards, which is quite a quick turnaround. And I'll be trying to do that, and I'll be trying to, I'll chuck on wraps because it's just based on total. There's no body weight, there's no formulas, that kind of thing. There's no formulas in the jungle. There's no CPAPs in the jungle. I literally made that joke yesterday when I was talking to on Instagram. But I'll be checking on reps, and I'll be trying to total probably 1,100 plus, and trying to get a podium spot.
Yeah. What in your head? Because I know you've already visualized things. I just know what numbers are making up 1,100 plus.
I haven't competed since June. And I squatted 375 in sleeves in June with stuff left in the tank, I think, like probably at least 5-10 kilograms.
Yeah, don't remind me. I fucked up. I already said sorry.
No, it was my fault. It was my fault. So I think that my squat right now, raw, would potentially be 390 to 400 if I was to peak and go through a proper like competition period.
At least.
And so I'm new to reps, and I don't want to say that reps are cheating, but reps will add kilograms to my squat unless I really screw things up. So I think there's a general, like I was talking to Henny, I think there's a genuine chance that I could probably get pretty close to 1,000 pounds, which would be 453. And so all I would need to do then is probably, I say all I would need to do, but I would then probably try to bench maybe 250 and then maybe deadlift 1,000 pounds as well, so 453 again. And I think that would probably make up, that's 1,150 actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's more in your bench, and we're going to fix that in just a second here. The rate limiter, always the rate limiter, keep this in the back of your mind with adding reps, is you are going to get an instant boost as soon as you learn the skill of using them, and the Monolith 2.
Yeah.
So you won't be walking out.
I won't be walking out, yeah.
The rate limiter is always upper back. It's like jumping from 400 to 450 is just going to fold you up top and start to throw you forward. So
yeah,
it's important that we really dial in what's going up there so you're not getting crushed.
And I am a reasonably upright squatter as well. I think the variable that I'm most concerned about is how fried I am after having that weight on my back and squatting with that weight for deadlifts.
Yeah, sure.
And then I'm also concerned about my grip because I have to mix grip and I can't hook grip. And there's just issues with having that much weight almost twisted in front of my body because of my forearm. And I've encountered issues with that in the past, and I just can't hook grip right because of the fluid that I store in my thumbs because of my body weight. So
yeah, and that only gets worse, obviously, as you gain more weight.
It does, yeah. So many people are like, oh, Dan Grigsby, he hook grips. Why can't you? And Dan Grigsby's maxed out at like 125 kilograms. So I'm 25 kilograms potentially heavier than him. It's just not the same.
With room to grow as well.
Yeah, it's just not the same. And like Dan's lean as well. Like he's just got veins everywhere.
Yeah.
So I don't have that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Circling back, just to Thomas's defense about the leaving some kilos on the platform. If I remember correctly, the competition before that at Ground Zero, you wanted a bigger squat and Tombo wanted to pull you back. But then he let you opt for the bigger squat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't worry, Tombo, I got you.
No. So at the New Zealand comp, Theo made his second attempt to look garbage. And so I just went to the table and I know he wanted 380 and I put in 375.
Yeah.
And he's like, what'd you put in? I'm like, 375. And I'm like, he's like, what? And I'm like, your second looks shit. And he's like, I did it on purpose.
No, that's not what I said. So
I'm adding some GST to the
hang on. So for my squats, as the weight gets heavier, I push it lower and lower down on my back. So I almost like, I probably shouldn't do this, but it's almost like a booster method where it's like the third squat, I'm so far down on my back, I'm in like the ideal position. It does cook my elbows, so I only tended to do it for thirds or like my peak weak squat. but it becomes like, it means that I can make the lift look easier. And obviously it's a third lift as well, so I might use ammonia. So I have more intent coming into the lift.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I can make the third lift look a little better than the second. And I told Thomas that that's what I do, and he didn't know that, and that's not your fault. But the reason I wasn't mad at you for saying 375, because after that Strength Quest total, where I went 7 for 9, I think, which I was pretty upset about. Like I failed 400 on deadlifts. I grinded my squat and I failed that. I argued with Thomas about that squat because I came in and it was the heaviest total ever done by a teenager that probably will be broken soon, if I'm being honest. And I'd been thinking about it for months. I knew exactly what numbers I wanted, and then Thomas came in and was like, "I don't think you could do that." And I was like, "No, we're doing 370. I have to do 370." And I failed it. And the first thing that I said to Thomas was like, "I am never questioning you again. I will do whatever you say." That was my one moment of rebellion. From here on, if you say to do something, I will lift it and I will not ask questions. And what happened at the Ruthless comp afterwards is we had 400 kilograms for my redemption pull on my second attempt, and it flew. And both Thomas and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, "Oh, we didn't expect that. What's next? What are we doing here?" And for me, I just chose the next whole number, which was 900 pounds. So we just went to 410, and then that also flew. And that kind of reminds me of what happened at that the deadlift comp, the Queensland Strongest Deadlift.
Yeah.
Where I pulled 477, and Thomas expected it to be slow, and I didn't expect it to be slow because I knew how many variables were. I pulled 470 with like no prep whatsoever.
I expected it to be slow.
I pulled 470 beltless and prep, and it was slow. But I also did that with like 24 hours notice.
I expect anyone lifting 470 kilos to be slow.
Yeah. Everyone.
Your 460 was slow the other day.
Yeah. Everyone was asking me, they're like, "Oh, is beltless a secret technique?" And I just drank too much water.
Yeah.
And like I felt like I did 420 with a belt, and I felt like throwing up. And I was like, something in my brain was like, "Oh, we should just add 50 kilograms and then take the belt off, and we could probably do that." And I did that, and I messaged Thomas, and I was like, "I just pulled 470 beltless, and just send vid, send vid, you're capping." But then, after I pulled 477, Thomas and I kind of just looked at each other and we're like, "Oh, well, we definitely do 506," with the knowledge that if I pulled 500, we would never forgive ourselves, and it would be grossly unsatisfying compared to pulling the heaviest deadlift ever.
It's so funny. I was talking to someone, and it might have been you, CJ. We're talking about, imagine just being a random guy in the gym asking Theo what he lifts, and he says, "Oh, I did lift 500 kilos." You'd be like,
"No, you don't."
Yeah, listen
like
to
on the hammer strength deadlift machine.
Yeah, listen to this guy. Reckons he pulls 500 kilos. It sounds so far from real. Like it's it's unbelievable.
I'm going to be that guy. It's going to be like, "Oh, I deadlifted, like I benched 405 in high school." And no, seriously, I benched 405 in high school. And I do get people asking that, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm the deadlift holder for," like, I think I have the heaviest deadlift done by someone who lives in the Southern Hemisphere, I think, because the guy who broke my Australian deadlift record, Ventisislav, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, the Russian Slav dude.
Yeah.
He broke my deadlift by 2.5 kilograms, but he got flown out from Bulgaria, I believe.
And it was on Apex Bar.
Yeah, and it was on an Apex Bar.
Doesn't count.
Yeah, and he's 5'7". He's so jacked for someone who's 5'7", man. He's like 110 kilograms.
Just go the James method.
It's insane.
Don't play the height card. Just be like, I could beat that guy up. I could punch that guy in the face.
Oh, man.
That's what James says when he gets upset.
Yeah, I'm still wondering when I'm going to grow out of that. 33 still say that.
All right, so I know you have very strong thoughts on the change in deadlift bars and how that's affected records. Are you willing to share that?
Yeah, no, I think I have the same opinion as a lot of the top lifters. Like
most of the world.
Yeah, so the kabuki bar, I think, is I'm not that cut about it. I just think that it doesn't bode well for powerlifting as a sport in general. And the reason that I say that is the bar was too long for pretty much every federation for their rule books. So it was an illegal bar. And then Kabuki kind of came in and was like, "Hey, we'll pay you to change your rules, and we'll give you bars." And all the feds were like, "Oh yeah, let's do that." And so the bar is very, very whippy to the point where it has its own learning curve. And all of a sudden, all of the comps were on a kabuki. So all the gyms in America needed kabukis. All the top athletes needed to prep on a kabuki. Otherwise, they would be unable to lift on the day because the bar's so different. And it became almost like this isolated elitist kind of niche of like, as soon as the bar was released, world records got broken. Dan Grigsby broke the world record deadlift. All these deadlifters who were primarily sumo pullers started breaking the records by 10, 20, 30 kilograms. And everyone was like, well, this is the best deadlift bar. For me, as a top deadlifter that's not in America, though, that bar is borderline completely inaccessible for me. And so...
There's like 3 in Australia.
Yeah, and so... Yeah, there's one on Leviathan in Tasmania.
There's probably more, but like of the ones I know, Leviathan, so Lydia has one.
Yeah.
And then that guy on the, like, Harvey Bay.
There's one on the Harvey Bay gym, which I was so amazed to see that. I think the gym owner messaged Phoebe and was like, oh, we have a kabuki deadlift bar here. And Phoebe told me, and I was like, there is no way that you have this. There's no way that this gym in this town has a kabuki bar. And it was a kabuki bar, and it was one of the members who had owned it.
Yeah, he used to train at Nexus in Townsville, and then he moved to Harvey Bay.
Do you guys also think that's part of just evolution? It's part of growth of the sport? Like, you know, we don't complain when technology changes in footwear. We don't complain when technology changes in supplementation. And
well, it's a hard. I was going to ask you then. How do you rationalize the change in sleeves, for example?
Well, sleeves are a lot more accessible. Like the issue that I had is like, if you wanted to compete from purely like an elite level, if you wanted to compete at these comps over in America and win these big like the pro circuits over there, you need to train on a kabuki as well. So you need to buy a kabuki and ship it to your country, and shipping is the cost of the bar, and
if not more.
Their shipping is notoriously terrible for Americans, let alone international.
Yeah,
I think the bar is like 600 AUD, and the shipping is also 600 AUD.
Sure.
But for sleeves, they're a lot more accessible. I think that the sleeves still fit within the rule books and the parameters. The kabuki bar does not. They changed the rules to allow it.
Yes.
And it does become a little bit kind of like isolating. Like we have so many splinter feds, and it just seems like we're adding too many variables. Like people are coming back and doing a full circle to purist powerlifting, where it's just stiff bar for everything. That's what the ABS Pro is doing now. They're just doing a stiff bar meet on a Lico power bar for everything, including deadlifts. But for stiff knee sleeves, I think that they don't change the rules. People kind of put too much weight on equipment, I think. Like sleeves don't make that big of a difference. But, yeah.
No, I like that. That's cool. That's cool. All right. Well, we're getting towards the end. Anyone have any final burning questions for Theo?
Just how you're liking living here in Australia after the move from NZ?
It's hot. Yeah, it was really hot when I first came in early February. I was kind of chained to AC and a fan if I wanted to feel good about myself. It's not that different from New Zealand, in all honesty. Like, there's different milk, there's different meat. Like, the supermarkets are slightly different. The traffic's a little bit worse, but New Zealand and Australia aren't different whatsoever. Like, the cost of living in New Zealand is just a little bit worse than Australia. The employment laws over in Australia are a little bit better. You get paid a little bit better.
Interesting way to answer a question. Do you like living here?
Yeah.
I just like that he brought up the milk.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, these are the things that stand out to me as a person. Like,
I don't know. Let's boil it down to the brass tacks. Is the milk better in New Zealand or
it's better
Australia?
in New Zealand. Yeah, of course.
Do you believe that?
1,000%.
Of course he will. Everyone will.
Nah, because I grew up in New Zealand and I categorically think the milk is better here.
Yeah, but but you probably try like Meadow Fresh or something.
But I feel like now you're the same as me. We moved as kids. We drank full cream. We don't really do that anymore.
Yeah, I grew up on like the Milkman milk, like blue top.
Glass.
Yeah.
Oh, not glass jar. Yeah, not that old.
Yeah, glass jar.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Where it got delivered to your house?
Yeah, my brother was a milkman. Like he rode on the back of the truck.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the milk in New Zealand is high quality, I think. Australia is also very, very high quality.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think America is probably where things kind of change.
I think that's my problem though. When I go back to New Zealand, I'm not actually going and buying milk. So when I'm having it, I'm probably having like Anchor or Meadow Fresh instead of.
Anchor's good.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are still good Australian brands. Like the reason that I say it's good, it's not from a taste perspective. Like this stuff here is great, but from a macros perspective, the Anchor Protein
Meg
Plus.
and I have been arguing about this all week.
The Anchor Protein Plus milk is kind of like
having
unbeatable.
productive conversation.
It sounds like arguing to me.
No, I brought up the fact that I hate the term macro friendly.
Yeah, and I said I agree with you.
I didn't say macro friendly. I just said the macros are better.
I know what you said.
Yeah, macro-friendly
I know what
sounds
you said.
entirely kind of like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, macro-friendly means like lower calories, doesn't it?
Well, that's not
It's
macro-friendly
funny-
to
it's-
me.
just talking shit.
Yeah.
Funny you say that, James.
Anyway, I will say that the Lewis Farm Creamery, is it Lewis Farm
Yeah,
Creamery?
yeah, the Whittaker.
The chocolate milk with Whittaker's is the
Yeah.
best chocolate milk I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. It's ridiculously
By
expensive
far.
as well. Yeah.
Super expensive. You can buy those like little custards, and it's like 1,200 calories in the little thing of custard. The Lewis Farm.
Yeah,
one.
I used to drink
Damn.
cream. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the fucking hard gainer's dream.
Yeah, I got challenged to drink. I bought a 2-liter bottle of cream.
Yeah.
And I think how many servings did it had on it? 188 servings or something. And it was like 9,000 calories or more.
Did you drink it?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I spent the day getting through it. I did chug a fair bit of it, and then I felt so ridiculously sick afterwards
R.I.P. your toilet.
that it didn't affect me too much. I just felt like
You've
I
had
think
years
ingesting that amount of
conditioning.
fat just
Yeah.
made your body like almost go into shock, where it's like, I'm going to die. This is horrible.
You ever watch like Furious Pete or LA Beast?
Yeah.
Like drink like 10 liters of olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I used to do that.
insane.
Me and Bridget have been binging Eric the Electric lately.
Who's that?
He's a food eater, so he does like, he'll do like 100,000 calories, like 48-hour challenge and things like
Yeah,
that.
wow. I like Beard Meats Food.
Yeah, he's good.
Oh, he's the competitive eating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched his. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could not do that.
He's great.
I have
He's-
such a pitiful appetite. Everyone comments on it. They expect me to have like a massive appetite for being so large, and it's just like I eat so slowly.
you eat so slow.
And everyone bullies me for it. And like my argument is that I'm constantly digesting food. Like every meal that I have, I'm constantly. I'm like having 2 meters. Like I've got 2 liters of fluid that's constantly pretty
Yes.
much in my system. But my appetite is abysmal. I eat like a child. like when things get bad, I just run on biscuits and milk. I'm literally Santa Claus. It's horrible.
I'm literally Santa Claus. That's my quote for next week. I'm literally Santa
Well, it's
Claus.
just milk and
Theo.
biscuits, yeah. And like the biscuits are like 1,000-calorie packets.
Which
of, like,
biscuits are these?
Yeah, what do you go to biscuits?
You won't probably know them, but Toffee Pops and
Yeah.
the hundreds and thousands.
Yes.
Those are great. And they're 1,000, I think they're 1.2k calories per packet.
Are toffee
Damn.
pops called Royal Crowns here? Or is that like Mellow Puffs?
Mellow Puffs are different. They've got marshmallow on them.
Yeah, but you know how like Arnott's, it's Australia,
yeah.
New Zealand. There's an equivalent of toffee pops here, but they're nowhere near as good.
Damn, I just stopped eating toffee pops when I moved to Australia. I didn't know they had them here.
Yeah, but they're not the same.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's not the same because it's psychological.
Yeah. I just remember Carlos Spencer being on the toffee pops ads growing up. I don't know, you're
As
probably
a
too
rugby
young.
player.
Yeah.
Crusaders?
Nah, Blues. You might have been too young, Theo.
Oh, yeah. I know the Crusaders being Christchurch and stuff, but before my time.
He was like, I was moving here when he was born.
Yeah, when I was talking
Don't
about
think about it like that.
because when we were talking about the earthquakes, like I was literally, an adult, and he was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Still a child.
Yeah.
probably 8 or 9. Yeah. I got real weird memories around it, like being in school during the aftershocks and all the kids were like lined up and crying their eyes out on like the field and stuff, like the school field, while the world was shaking. And I was one of the few kids that wasn't crying. And so the teacher just gave me like 2 tissue boxes in a hand and just had me walk up and down the aisles of kids and just hand out tissues to kids.
Tissue boy.
Because you're up on did you go to Cashmere Primary?
Yeah, Cashmere Primary.
Yeah, you would have been up on the hills. That would have been scary.
It was, bro. And the reason why is because you could look out over the city from the field and you could just see the city and you could just see dust everywhere. And like, you could see that something had happened. And the way that I describe this to people is like, it sounded like there was like a freight train coming almost, like the sound of the earthquake. And when I was in New York in the metro, I don't want to say like a PTSD experience, but I had one of the trains go above and it sounded identical to that.
Yeah.
And I had a split moment of like, panic, where I was like, I know that sound from like back when I was like 9 or 8 in the earthquakes.
Yeah, it's hyperlearning.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
trauma. That's what PTSD
Well,
is.
it wasn't like
micro version.
Yeah, I didn't like break down crying and then
No,
have like
no.
like a psychotic split or anything, but I just kind of had a bit of my heart rate spiked and I
Yeah.
was like, I remember that.
The
It's like
first
kicking into gear.
the first earthquake, I thought we were getting robbed. I thought a car drove into our house.
Wow.
Were you there for the 2012 ones?
Yep, I was there for both of them.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and the second one I was at uni and like all the lathes. Do you guys know what a lathe is?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were falling over.
Yeah, wow.
And they were just bouncing around the room.
Heavy as hell.
It was fucking terrifying.
Yeah, my neighbors had like brick chimneys.
Mm.
They were killers, man. like not just killers of people, but they just collapsed people's houses.
Yeah.
They just went inwards and just went through their roof.
My parents' house, one of my parents' houses, only just got fully fixed not long ago from the earthquakes.
Yeah,
Fucking
the
wild.
insurance was. You got red zones now, and there was a bunch of liquefaction areas that were just like deemed uninhabitable. And then I go back to Christchurch every Christmas to see family and stuff. And there's so much car parking in this.
Yeah, so much.
Because everything's been demolished.
Yeah, well, I was driving Meg around where I grew up, and I grew up like Queens Park, Parklands area, and so it's all wetlands, and so the red zones around there, like around QE2 and everything like that, there'd just be like massive land masses with one lonely house in the middle. I'm like, that used to be a complete suburb when I lived here. Yeah, crazy.
Have you seen all the photos of the rats that were in like the CBD? They're like the size of cats.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're fucking they were humongous. Just because they, cafes and that were abandoned for so long, and
yeah, that's cool. That's super cool. It's funny because I remember in primary school doing the earthquake training. Like you know how they do fire drills, they do the earthquake drills, and anytime you do a fire drill, even at like as an adult at corporate work, we're never going to have a fire. I remember thinking, we're never going to have an earthquake. And then you guys got smashed.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing any drills for it whatsoever. We might have had like fire drills, but I'm so young. My brain isn't, I wasn't even conscious then, really. I wasn't really sentient. I remember like my primary concern after the earthquakes was the fact that Club Penguin was down. If you guys know what Club Penguin was.
Penguin.
Yeah, because we had no internet. Yeah. So, yeah, but I remember my dad rushing up to my room and being like, there's an earthquake. And I was like, what do I do? Like, what do you want me to do?
You know what's crazy about the second earthquake, the one that killed people?
Yeah.
My brother was in Chile for their humongous ones. He was living in Chile.
Yeah.
And so after that, he had to move back home because Chile was fucked. Like the bridge where he lived in Santiago, so the bridge like that connected it to the city and whatever was down. So he had to move back home. And then the earthquake that killed people was on his birthday. So we moved back home, and then straight away we had an earthquake here.
Oh, man.
So his 2 homes were like ruined.
Unlucky, bro.
Pretty scary.
All right, Theo, any final messages you want to tell the people? I've never said that on this podcast. I don't know why I just did. You don't have to say anything.
I don't think I have anything to say to anybody. You've really put me on the spot again, yeah.
Follow Theo on Instagram and TikTok.
Open the Instagram reel with that, CJ. I've got nothing to say to anyone.
At Giant Man Child.
Yeah. I've got a lot to say, so I've been skipping over on topics a lot. It's very hard for me to focus on one thing and say one thing.
No, that's awesome, man. Thanks for coming. Thanks for
thanks for having me.
Overcoming your fears, according to Meg's quote. Getting stronger.
Thanks
for confidence from doing the things that you're avoiding.
It's so funny because Tombo messaged me and he's like, "Hey, is Theo coming?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Fuck." I confirmed with him last week, but I haven't double checked. So we confirmed last week, and then I messaged you last night, and you're like, "Fuck," and you just had the same response as me.
I opened that at like 11 p.m. or something like that, and I was like, "Oh, I have to get up early tomorrow, and like, I have to drive somewhere, and I've got places to be because I'm unemployed right now. I've got no routine."
Oh no!
So I forgot completely about it, and stressed me out, man.
Because I remember us confirming last week. I was like, "He won't remember," just like I didn't remember.
I just moved cities. In fairness, I just moved cities. There's other things going on in my life, but yeah, I completely forgot. Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the ZeroW Podcast. If you want more information, head to our Instagram, @zero_weakness. Hit the link in the bio for all of our services and any information on upcoming workshops and events. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review so we can have a broader reach and answer more people's questions. Thank you once more.